Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Spittin Fax podcast. I'm Ethan Spazarski,
And I'm Joey Priano.
and we are ecstatic to be here reporting you all the upcoming sports here right after Thanksgiving break. It is December 1st right now. Whenever you guys will be hearing this, well, it depends on when you click on the video, but this will be posted probably December 2nd. But either way, Joey, how was your Thanksgiving break?
Oh, I had a great Thanksgiving break. Just a good time to relax, go out of town, take a break from school, and watch some sports, hang out with family. Great time.
Got that right. I did pretty much all three of those things: family, sports, relax, and in addition to that, I ate a lot of food on Thanksgiving. I like to fast the entire day to like allow myself and to be hungry enough to go that long and just keep guzzling down all the food I can. Very exciting time, but nonetheless, we are back from the break. Got a little bit of time before we head out for Christmas, but that's not stopping sports, and I'm very happy about that.
Oh, yeah, I love that the sports continuously are going. You've got so many different to watch. We've got the FIFA World Cup going on right now, along with three major sports. It's just great to watch, and you got such a variety.
Exactly. So, the first couple episodes of this season so far, we kind of spent working on the NFL and how the season's been going on. It's very exciting. But today, we're actually going to take a break from that, and we're going to switch to our boys over on the ice. That is right. We're going to be talking about the NHL, breaking down teams and players so far. I don't want to really spoil too much for you because this is actually an exciting episode because I'm very happy hockey season's back. They're about a third of the way through the season, but nonetheless, this season has not disappointed. Joey, what's your initial reaction so far in this year?
It's been a very fun season. We've seen a lot of very surprising teams that have come from way down, that have been near the bottom. Teams such as like the Islanders and the Devils, especially. And we'll get into all those teams. But it's been a very fun, interesting year. We've seen some powerhouse teams. We've kind of established who's gonna make a run for the cup this year.
Exactly. It's never too, well, I mean, I believe it is too sometimes early, but I think we're finally getting to that point in the year where you start looking at stuff and you can accurately see what's going on here because we have played 22, 23 games in the year. And we're going to actually just kick it off right with the teams that you mentioned. We'll start with the Metropolitan Division and the Eastern Conference. Those teams are the Devils, the Islanders, the Hurricanes, the Penguins, the Rangers, the Capitals, the Flyers, and the Blue Jackets. If you did not know that, right now, New Jersey sits atop of the Metropolitan Division with 38 points. They're 19-4-0. The Islanders, who were dead last year, currently sit at second with 30 points, 15-9-0. And then right now in third place of that division is the Carolina Hurricanes, not surprising, 12-6-5 with 29 points. Joey, you're a Hurricanes fan. Talk to me about this hurricane type year we've seen. I also want to hear your opinion on how you see the Devils and Islanders are playing this year.
I love how the Hurricanes have been playing this year. They've had a couple bumps. Freddie Anderson going on the IR is a big loss. Uh, Antti Ranta's had a little bit of a disappointing year. He's been okay. He hasn't been great. He hasn't been terrible. But Freddie Anderson leaving the ice is a big loss. They filled in with Piotr Kochetkov, who's been really good actually. He's been very solid in the net, but he's not Freddie Anderson. So I'm very content with where the Hurricanes are right now. They're sitting in third place, only 1 point behind the Islanders, and without their ace goaltender. So I'm pretty excited for where the Hurricanes are going to go this year. As for the Islanders, I kind of see them slowing down a little bit this year. I don't think they finish in the top three, but they have a very good team. Matt Barzal is doing Matt Barzal things, as well as Brock Nelson having a good year. Anders Lee. They've got some good leaders there. So I think that the Islanders will have a good year. I don't think they finish at the top of this division, but they have a good year. And then lastly, the Devils surprising everybody. I saw them having definitely an up year from last year because they've been around those bottom three picks the past couple years, but their young stars are really stepping up this year. So they're well ahead of the division. They have 39 points to second place is 30. So I don't know. I think that the Devils will hold on. Maybe not get first, but definitely have a top seed in these playoffs.
You definitely mentioned it. You said it right all the whole way through. I mean, Carolina lost Freddie Anderson for the playoffs or the end of the season in the playoffs last year, and Carolina still was able to make a run. Obviously, that was mainly with Antti Ranta in between the pipes for the Hurricanes. But you get this new young guy in who's been able to step up for them. and make a name for himself, which is exciting to see because he definitely deserves that. For some players that are standing out for Carolina as well, Sebastian Aho is 25 points in the year. Marty Necas is 25 points in the year. Andrei Svechnikov is still hot from last year with 24 points. And then it kind of goes down, but those are definitely your top three guys. I feel like last year Aho really didn't play as well as we've seen. I think it was kind of an off year, especially towards the end. So seeing him being the leading point scorer for this team is really good. Speaking of leading point scorers and upgrades, the New York Islanders definitely, if you're talking about upgrades and getting better in one spot, the New York Islanders are probably at the top of that list, if anything. Matt Barzal is 26 points in the year. Brock Nelson is 23. And I think the nice thing about that is that list continues to go on and on with guys. They have, let me just check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They have 12 guys above 10 points, which is really, really good to see that more people are being able to get involved, especially after last season struggling with goaltending and producing goals. And again, another star who really underperformed was Matt Barzal. So to those two teams, I mean, part of the turnaround and able to maintain. And the Devils, as you mentioned, complete shock. I'll read you. So I'll be the stat guy for a moment. At home right now, the Devils are 9-3-1, and away they're 10-1. So they, over the last 10 games, they're 8-1-1. Not that, I mean, last 10 games isn't really a stat people look forward to, but that home record and away record goes to help that they can play and win in both situations. It's not like one place is better than another.
They also had that 13-game win streak, I think it was, which is
it was
a big help
13
for
games.
them.
Yeah, no, 13
And
games
then,
with 2 points each. That goes a long way.
and I think they've only lost 2 since then, one of them being in overtime. So a lot of times you'll see teams go on these long streaks and then cool off and maybe lose a couple that they should win and kind of settle down. And they've lost a couple and are just keep on going. They're going to keep pushing. They've only lost 5 total games this year.
Funny
which
story.
I just think is crazy.
Yeah, their loss just came today, actually. 4-3 loss in overtime to Nashville. That was, and Vitek Vanacek was their starting goaltender. Speaking of which, Vitek Vanacek, pretty darn good this year, especially with this new system from coming over from the Capitals.
Yeah, I thought, personally, to me, I thought Mackenzie Blackwood was the guy this year. He's been a little bit disappointing, not really, but we haven't really gotten to see too much because you're right, Vitek Vanacek has definitely had a good year. It's good to see him filling in that definite number one starter role. I was expecting Mackenzie Blackwood. I was pleasantly surprised because Vanacek has had a great year.
Yeah, Blackwood started the first 7 games, or excuse me, started 6 of the first 7 games, Vanacek, of which was that one other time he didn't. And after that, it's pretty much Blackwood's only played once. So Vanacek's kind of taken a charge of that leadership role, but there's still plenty of time left for some things maybe to change and whatnot between that. So Joey, before we move on to maybe the next division, is there anything else you want to talk about in this Metropolitan division? Maybe that's something that stands out to you team-wise.
Yeah, my one last thing that really stands out to me is that I'm really disappointed in the Columbus Blue Jackets this season. I know that they weren't really expected to be a great team, but I just think this is a really disappointing performance from them. They're tied for the second least amount of points in the entire league. And I know that there weren't super high expectations coming into the year, but it's tough to see. Patrick Laine has been on the IR twice since the season started. Johnny Gaudreau hasn't been able to get rolling without him. So I hope that the Blue Jackets can go up from here. Johnny Gaudreau has 22 points, but then after that is Boone Jenner with 15, and then it just goes way downhill. So I hope that the Blue Jackets can pick it up because they're a fun team to watch, and I love watching Johnny Gaudreau skate. But hopefully when Laine gets back on the ice consistently, they can make a run.
Yeah, Blue Jackets are tied with Chicago for the second least amount of points in the NHL. The worst team in the NHL right now, according to points, is the Anaheim Ducks, in case you're curious about that. You brought up a very good point. The Columbus Blue Jackets, I expected them last season to be making a trend upward, especially with Patrick Laine. Then I saw they signed the hottest free agent in the NHL, Johnny Gaudreau, which was something everyone was like expecting for a mass improvement, and the hype behind it was insane. And it has been completely the opposite way. Their goal differentials -27. they're just getting out. They're getting outscored, and that obviously is the definition of winning goals or winning games. Excuse me. So, definitely something worth mentioning. But with our other four teams in this division, the Penguins, Rangers, Capitals, and Philly, for some reason these teams always find each other mixed together in some sort of tanglement, especially between the Rangers, Caps, and Penguins. So I mean, I'm not really too worried about any other team in this division right now. Obviously New Jersey and the Islanders are the only teams above 30 points. Everyone else is between 29 and 16. So the race right now for second place is still not lost, but New Jersey and the Islanders are definitely on an island of their own. No pun intended.
I agree, although in a couple minutes we might get to see Carolina hit that 30 mark.
Yeah.
At the time of recording, there's 6 minutes left in the third, and they are tied. So if that goes to overtime, they'll hit that 30
They'll have the
mark
point.
too.
Yeah, no, it is 3-3 with the Blues. It's funny because when you record, sometimes you're forced your hand to record some later episodes at later in the night, and so a lot of these games are going on. So these things are sure to spice up a little bit. But anyway, moving on to me, the hottest division in the NHL, the Atlantic Division, to wrap up the Eastern Conference talk. The first place team, which isn't a surprise too much, 2 years ago, this team won the President's Trophy, the Boston Bruins. They're 19-3-0. The only game I was really disappointed and looked bad was the Ottawa Senators game when they lost 8-5 or 8-6, and that's been like a month ago. This team has looked hot. They're rolling. All their key guys are playing excellent. Pastrnak, Bergeron, Brad Marchand. So credit to them. The next team is in second place right now, the Toronto Maple Leafs, 15-5-5 with 35 points on the year so far. And then Tampa Bay, I'd say the team that's been in the Stanley Cup final the last 4 years. They're 13-8-1 with 27 points. And then I have to give a shout out because they were my team I picked to be the turnaround team. The Detroit Red Wings are tied in third place with 27 points as well. Joey, I'm not even going to talk about anything else. I want you to spark this conversation because there's plenty to talk about.
I think that the Boston Bruins are the best team in the NHL, and I really don't think it's super close. You can put the Leafs up there, you can put the Islanders up there, you can put the Stars in Vegas up there, but I really truly think this team is the best team in the NHL. They've only lost 3 games, as you said. That's pretty crazy. They lost a 2-1 game to the Leafs. They lost by 3 goals to the Panthers, but one of those was an empty net, and the Panthers have been pretty good. And as you mentioned, that one game to the Senators, you have those games every year. You're not going to go undefeated in an NHL season. So I think that they're easily the best team. Linus Allmark is making a case for the Vezina right now. We're only a third of the way through the season, but he can win the Vezina right now if he keeps playing like this. He's playing like he's the best goalie in the league.
He's leading in every stat category. The most important stat categories a goalie has. Another key thing to mention, speaking of undefeated, at home, Boston's 13-0. No team in NHL has done that if not a long, long time.
Wow. No home losses. Wow.
No home losses. They're 6-3 on the road, but they are 13-0 at home. And that plays in TD Garden last year in the playoffs was an intense place to play. Barely any teams were able to win over the Garden anyhow. And I honestly think if Boston played Carolina in the TD Garden for Game 7, I honestly think the script is written different and Boston does win because of the atmosphere they have there in Boston. Joey, for me, Toronto, I'm not sold on completely yet because of what we see, how they play in the regular season compared to the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that one of these years, Toronto is going to win a playoff series, and then we're going to be able to talk differently about it. But it's the same story.
That's not that time.
Consistently. It's the same story consistently of the Leafs showing that they're one of the top teams in the league, showing that they're a force to be reckoned with their big stars, and then get to playoffs and can't do anything. So when are we going to see that change? However, it's weird to say, but they're doing the exact same thing again. They have 4 guys over 25 points. Marner has 29, Austin Matthews 27, John Tavares 26, and Willie Nylander 25. That's a pretty awesome top 4 with Morgan Riley sitting right behind at 16. So it's weird to say because they do the same thing every year, but is this the Leafs year? I don't know. They might have to face Tampa in the first round.
Yeah, no, anytime you play the Maple Leafs. The top four is usually the top four. And their stars, again, another thing that I've been talking about with a few of these teams, their stars have been picking up the puck and making plays with it. They're not sitting back and relaxing, kind of like most of them did last year. You mentioned Tampa as well, and it's kind of funny to me. For me, Tampa does the same thing every year as well. Right, the first good 10 games of the year, they don't look like the team we saw in the postseason, the Stanley Cup final before. Then as the season goes on, they pick up. They may drop a few games that they should have won. But when it comes to playoff time, they're ready. John Cooper and the team, they're ready to play. They're also, do you agree with me that they are also following their storyline as well?
Oh, I totally agree. I think that we haven't, in the past couple years, in the years that the Lightning have, one thing I will say, pause, Hurricanes are up 4-3.
Oh,
But I think that the Lightning never really start off hot in these past couple years. They always end hot. They always have halfway through the season look like they're going to be the team, but they never start off winning every game like the Bruins are doing right now. One of the things that I'm unsure about for the Lightning as well as the Maple Leafs. Okay, well, not unsure. I'm more disappointed for the Lightning, and I'm unsure for the Maple Leafs, and that's the goaltending. Vasilevsky we know is one of the most talented goalies in the entire league, but
in the
he
entire
really
world.
hasn't been himself this year. He's got a 2.88 goals against average, a 908 save percentage, and I don't know. He's 9-7-1. He's just been okay, which isn't usually what we see from Andrei Vasilevsky.
Yeah, I know you hit the nail on the head right there. Something noticeable is the Vasilevsky decline. Not that by any stretch of imagination he's still not an excellent goaltender by the stats that he has, but for Vasilevsky's standards, there has been a tad bit of a drop off. Just by watching, but even without needing to look at the stats, if you've been watching and pay attention, you can tell. It's something worth noting about. So I think real quick before, if we are going to wrap it up, you do need to bring up the Detroit Red Wings. As a team, at least, tied again with the Tampa Bay Lightning at 27 points right now at this very moment, looking at the website, making sure nothing has changed. The Lightning they played the same amount of games. However, Detroit's taken a lot more games to overtime than Tampa has. Detroit has 5 overtime games right now. Tampa only has 1. So talk to me about this progression that the Detroit Red Wings have had this past 3 years, at least, from literally being at the bottom of the league, the last year being in the middle of the league, to now being pushing towards the top.
Yeah, I remember a couple years ago when it was kind of a big deal that the Red Wings missed the playoffs because they had the longest playoff streak. They hadn't missed the playoffs in like 20 years at that point when they didn't make it. And then you see them last year. They, in my opinion, and I think most people's opinion, were the worst team in the entire NHL last year. They were horrific. But yeah, they've shown some real signs of life this year. Dylan Larkin, I kind of expected it from him, but not really like this. 25 points is my expectations this early into the season. Dominic Kubalik has been good, came out of nowhere. David Perron, a very key sign.
Not surprised
we
by
talked
his.
about.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by it though. We mentioned to him many times throughout the podcast history and his offensive surge in production since joining the St. Louis Blues, at least. So yeah, no.
Yeah, with the Blues and with Vegas, yeah, we've talked a lot about David Perron. He's a weapon. Two things that I will say. One we'll get into in a little bit later in our next segment of NHL, but I've been disappointed with Moritz Seider and Andrew Kopp for the Red Wings because these are your two guys where it's like your core, and I feel like goal scoring wise, they just haven't shown up. Each of them only have 2 goals through 22 games this year. So we'll talk about Moritz Seider in a little bit. I just want to say that the Red Wings have really legit playoff chances if they can get some of these guys, like the 2 of them, Lucas Raymond, if they can get some of them scoring goals, this could be a team you got to watch out for.
I'm not gonna lie, I am a goalie guy myself. I very much like the goaltender position, and if my favorite goaltending free agent, Ville Husso, who has played really well so far this year with the Red Wings, is doing great. He's 9-3, with 3 overtime losses as well. He's giving up just about 2.6 goals a game. Save percentage is about 91%. Those stats could definitely get up and better, but he is still playing really good hockey. I'm excited to see where he goes and this team as well, because again, they are making a vast growth over the past 3 years. They've just been jumping and jumping. So something worth noting. Joey, again, just like with the last division, is there anything else you wish to discuss? Anything else that stands out to you that we may have missed?
Yeah, I want to hit the Buffalo Sabres real quick is my last thing in this division. The Buffalo Sabres are sitting in second last in this division with 21 points. They're 10, 13, and 1. I think I'm not giving up on the Sabres yet. I think that they're a very, very good team and have lost a lot of very close games, which are making their record look very bad. They have a very talented team. They have 4 players over 20 points. That's Tage Thompson, Rasmus Dahlin,
Oh,
Jeff
Tage.
Skinner, and Alex Tuck.
Yeah, Tage Thompson has had a career year, not even questioning it, at least. To rattle off some scores too, because to bring it, you brought up the close games. The last, let's see, 4 games, they lost to New Jersey 3-1 in regulation. They lost to Tampa 6-5 in OT. They won in a shootout against Detroit 5-4, and then they lost today. They lost to the Avalanche 6-4 in regulation. So, I mean, and it kind of goes on. They also that goes on throughout the year that there were close games, like against Vancouver, they lost 5-4. Let's see, against Carolina and Tampa, they lost 5-3. That team is a good team, and to be honest, if we're talking about scripts and following what they've been doing in recent history, to me, Buffalo, the Sabres are definitely a second half of the season team, especially after that All-Star break. That's when they really kick on the Jets. I wouldn't count them out again because the team in front of you, Montreal, is only 23, and then the team in front of you there right now is only 24, and that's Florida, the Panthers. So they're still close enough to grasp onto the bottom of the top part of this division, and they still can make a push. So I agree with you in the fact that you shouldn't be counting out the Buffalo Sabres at this point in the year.
I think that we've established that the top 3 seeds in this division will be Boston, Toronto, and Tampa in some order of those 3. Now I think it's up for that 4th spot. If Detroit gets rolling,
the
they
wild
could have
card.
it. If Florida gets rolling with Matthew Tkachuk, they could take it.
If
Montreal gets rolling with their young guys, they could take it. If Buffalo could take it. I don't think Ottawa will be it. But one spot for one of those 4 teams.
No, Ottawa's been disappointing. We expected a little bit of a better turnaround. Maybe not like obviously first in the division, but kind of like a Detroit turnaround where they actually make progress throughout the year. I mean, you brought it up, so I kind of want to talk about it real quick. So Boston, Toronto, Tampa, that seems to be just the natural way of order of things anyway. With that, who's going to be top 3, and then the top 3 in the Metropolitan. To me, by the end of the year, if this is obviously still early in depicting on, things can obviously change. I don't want anyone to think that what I say is what's going to happen, and I don't think it could change. I definitely believe there is room to change, but if I had to pick teams that turn around, I think what happens is it goes Carolina 1, New Jersey 2, Penguins 3.
I was about to say the exact same thing as you.
And
that was my order.
Yeah, and I think the 2 wildcard teams are either Detroit or Florida, and then for our other division, from our division in the Metropolitan, I think the Islanders make the playoffs as the other wildcard spot.
I think it'll either be. I think I agree with you in the Atlantic, and I think it'll be either the Islanders or the Rangers. One of the New York teams, I think, will get in.
Yeah, go New York teams this year. In multiple sports, they've stepped up, which is good to see. So transitioning to the Western Conference of Division talk, my number 2 team, the Dallas Stars, they are sitting atop the Central Division. 13-6-4 with 30 total points. They're about to get 2 more because they're about to beat Anaheim I believe it's Anaheim. They're beating right now. Let me check. Yeah, Anaheim. They're beating Anaheim 4-0 at the beginning of the 3rd as we record this. Winnipeg, they're back. 14-6-1 with 29 points. Colorado, the defending Stanley Cup champs, are 12-7-1 with 25 points there. And then after that, it's a 3-way tie for 4th place with 22, and then it's Arizona and Chicago, so you don't really have to worry about that, to be honest. But Central Division, that's a turnaround. Dallas was 4th and 5th last year for majority of for the beginning of the year, they were at 7 and 8. Then by the end of the year, they were at about 4 or 5 spot. Now they're at 1st. Talk to me about this turnaround, and then I'll continue to tell you why you're right.
Yeah, I like Dallas a lot this year. I expected them to have an up and coming year, but I would have told you that there's no way they finish ahead of Colorado. And right now, it's still close, but I think they finish ahead of Colorado this year. I really do. I think they finish atop of the Central. This whole division has been kind of interesting to me. I always feel like this is the division that I forget about. Um, but I think that that's been changing. There's so many different teams that have big X factor players. Like you think of the Wild, and you think, oh, well, that's not like a standout team. That's not like, oh, you think NHL teams, you think the Wild, and then you realize they've got Fleury in goal, and they've got Kirill Kaprizov, and they've got Matt Zuccarello. Like there's each of these teams has like their guys that are going to be their guys for a very long time, and it's very interesting to watch because you never really know who's going to make a big jump. Minnesota could make a big jump. Nashville could make a big jump up. St. Louis could make a big jump up. It's so close in those middle standings that anybody can take this division.
Exactly. Dallas, to give credit to other teams, Dallas leads the Central. However, of all the leading teams in the four respective divisions, they do have the least amount of points. Every other, but in the East, the Devils and Bruins both have 38 points. Vegas has 35 right now. They'll stay at 35. The Penguins did defeat, as we mentioned before, Penguins defeated the Vegas Golden Knights tonight as well. So nonetheless, but back to the point. Yeah, and I think a lot of that, as I'm sure we'll mention later, let's talk about point production, shall we? Jason Robertson. We knew he was good, but like he's really, really on fire this year. Leads the NHL, I'm pretty sure, in points with 36 points. Jamie Benn, the captain, the left winger, 26 points himself in 23 games. Rope Hintz, 24 points. Joe Pavelski, have a signed puck by him, 24 points as well. Tyler Seguin is 18. Miro Heiskanen has 16. And then we got Mason Marchment, who we didn't know how he was going to transition with this team. He has 13 points in the year. So Dallas is really, really clicking. And again, that carries over with Jake Ottinger because God bless America. We saw him against the Flames, right? And we talked about how incredible he was. You're happy with his production, right?
Oh, totally. Talking about him in the playoffs, I remember doubting that the Flames were going to win that series. I believed a lot in the Flames, but you can't look past the production that Ottinger has put up this year. I think that a lot of people did expect him to take that step up, but he's been so incredible, and it's so fun to watch. He's just a great goalie. His stats, he's 2.52 goals against average with a 917 save percentage, 8-2-3. But I think one of the other things that I love about this is that if Jake Ottinger ever runs into a slump or he gets injured or anything Scott Wedgwood is a fantastic backup goalie. He's got a 3.07 goals against average and 906 save percentage, which can get better, but that's in 10 games. He's one of the better backups in the league, I think.
Oh, he definitely is. And when New Jersey sent him over, I was like, ching, because he was, goaltender production and goal. I feel like New Jersey's really good at producing goaltenders. So applaud to them as well. But Dallas is right now all around being a really, really good team. They've been stepping up in times of need, especially whenever you're in this division where anything can happen. I want to talk about Winnipeg and Colorado because it's kind of a tale of two stories here. Winnipeg last season, not the same team we saw 2 years ago. Colorado coming off the incredible season. They won the President's Trophy. They finally won a second-round playoff game for the first time in a good chunk of years. And they were there 7 times, and they lost 7 times, and now they're back, and they won. And then they beat the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champs, the Tampa Bay Lightning at the time. Talk to me also about this, the tale of two stories here. Winnipeg being second in the division right now, and Colorado kind of sitting at a tame third place.
Yeah, so it feels like Colorado should be ahead of everybody else in this division, coming off of last year, having guys come back and play well. Valery Nichushkin is doing pretty good. He has 7 goals, which is what they wanted from him. He's been hurt, so he has 7 goals and 5 assists in 7 games, which is incredible. McKinnon has 33 points again. Rantanen's got 31. Makar's got 23 and 17 assists. But it's been very interesting to see because you've got these stars and yet the wins aren't coming like we normally see. And I think one of the things with that which it seems like it should be, is the goaltending. But the goaltending has
Exactly.
been good too. Which
Exactly. No, that was my indicator. I feel like replacing Darcy Kemper is a big task. I mean, don't get me wrong. Francois and company have done a good job of stepping up to that because Kemper did have a really, really good year last year. And so I think it's the transition thing is definitely a factor into that. Credit to Francois, but I feel like it's just there's something not clicking right now with the Avalanche. I think they're getting a good roll, but like the foot's not all the way down the gas pedal, I feel like.
And don't get me wrong, they're a great team. Like they're 13-7-1. That's not with a 18 goal differential plus 18. So that's not bad by any means. It's just and it's hard to be tough because then we're saying that some of these teams that are lower than them are doing well. Um like the Avalanche have the same amount of points as the Red Wings. They both have 27. The Red Wings were boosting up and the Avalanche were taking down. But it's you kind of have to do that. The Avalanche came off of a record year, President's Trophy winners and Stanley Cup champions. So you kind of have to knock them down because you're expecting the same production that you got last year. And on the flip
Exactly.
side of that, the Jets have just exceeded my expectations so far because they lose Line A last year, obviously, which is still hurting them. And you feel like there's no one else really here to fill in that role. Kyle Connor, he's okay. They got
Pavel
what's his name?
Buchnevich.
Pierre-Luc
Oh,
Dubois.
Pierre-Luc
Yeah.
Dubois.
Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler still there. But it's like, okay, well, they'll be okay this year. But they're playing very well.
To me, another guy I want to talk about for maybe a couple seconds, Connor Hellebuck. As of right now, he's up top with the Vezina stuff. He's played 17 games, 11-5-1. He's allowed just over 2 goals a game, and has a 93% save percentage, which is among league high. So credit to him, and I think it also is the fact of the matter. This Jets team is filled with a bunch of good guys. There's no real absolute crazy all-stars who are playing on this team who are taking control of that. Their leading scorer for the Jets is a defenseman, point-wise. Josh Morrissey, he has 25 points. And then you got Kyle Connor, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Blake Wheeler, Mark Scheifele. So, again, a lot of the guys here are playing on the same level, and I think that helps to an effect because there's no true all-star, crazy, talented players that like a Connor McDavid or Sidney Crosby or an Alexander Ovechkin in a sense. So, credit to them. And my last mention of this division would be that 4, 5, and 6 spot right now between Minnesota, Nashville, and St. Louis. It's a close race down there, fighting for what teams would be in the wild card position.
Yeah, I agree. My last take on this division is I just want to see the Blackhawks and the Coyotes be good again. I don't know. I want to see
mainly Chicago, but Chicago dealt away. It seemed like if you want to build behind a team, you want to keep like Kirby Doc, Alex DeBrincat and everything. And with the way they traded them and what they got for back, I thought it was honestly criminal. It should I would have sued, but nonetheless, I do get what you mean on that aspect of it as well.
Yeah, I agree. The Blackhawks more than the Coyotes because I don't know. I miss seeing Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves in the playoffs playing big teams. Because they have so much potential.
Yeah, and well, speaking of potential, I think that is the perfect word to describe the Pacific Division because, ladies and gentlemen, the Vegas Golden Knights are back. They look to be a really, really good team. Their first place, 17-7-1 with 35 points on the year. Seattle, the Kraken. Speak of turnaround, they finished with 69 points or something along those lines last year. Right now, they got 31, and we're not even halfway through the halfway point. So that's really good to see. Their second place, 14-5-3 with 31 points. The LA Kings are also doing really good, 12-9-4 with 28 points. And then we got our sea of Canadian teams, Edmonton, then Calgary, then Vancouver, then finally San Jose and Anaheim. Anaheim being the worst team in the NHL. This team always seems to find at least the top 3 being the teams to deal with. And then after that, it really is just teams that really aren't something to be concerned with. But I don't think that's the story this year because Edmonton is a good team. Calgary is underperforming right now, but I think they have enough time to turn it around and help Jacob Markstrom get back onto track to being a Vezina talking guy. And I honestly think if Vancouver could finish some games, they would be legit as well.
Yeah, I think that this division is maybe and I'm not going to say my most fun division in hockey. I think the Metropolitan, personally, to me, is the most fun. But this division is just, you never know what's going to happen. So many teams are so bad, and then they're so good. Like the Ducks had some potential last year, and then they stunk, and now they're the worst team in the league. The Sharks had signs of being good last year, and now they're really bad. Kings are really good, and I remember saying that in the playoffs last year. Like, this young team is good. They've got good veteran guys with young talent. I love the Kings this year. I really do. I think they make the playoffs again. But one of the biggest things that I always notice is just the Edmonton Oilers are such a weird team to me, because they have two of the best five players in the entire league, including the best player in the entire league. But it really doesn't translate to wins. They're 13-11, just barely over 500. And you've got to start wondering when the main goal needs to be building overall talent in the whole league, not just spending all your money on the big guys.
I completely agree with that Edmonton take and the Pacific Division as a whole take. I think that was word for word perfect. Put that on a billboard. That was some iconic quote stuff right there. For me, the craziest thing is the Seattle Kraken turnaround. To me, I think that's, if I had to like look at the division and be like, wow, that's a crazy change. It starts and ends with the Seattle Kraken. Andre Burakovsky, the guy they picked up over in the offseason, leads the team 23 points. Jordan Eberle, not surprised. Guy who was with the Islanders, who was during their really good phase, 21 points. Matty Bernier, the rookie, 20 points. Defenseman Justin Schultz, former Pittsburgh Penguin and Washington Capitals, 16. Jared McCann, Jaden Schwartz, Vince Dunn, Daniel Sprong, Yanni Gourde, Oliver Bjorkstrand, Wengberg, Brandon Tanev. Like, all those guys that's listed have 10-plus points. And again, it's another team where you have a lot of really good guys at the same level. So I think that helps. And give credit to Martin Jones. Speaking of turnaround, there have been a lot of turnaround this year. Martin Jones is probably at the top of that list. 12-4-2, allows about 3 goals a game, has an 89% save percentage. That obviously can have room for improvement. But he's helping this team get wins, which is the most important stat. If you have to look at a stat comparing teams. Currently playing the Capitals right now, so they're losing 2-0 at the end of the first. So ironically enough, with me saying that, but overall, if you have to talk about a team that's able to win, it's Seattle. And let me mention, the Kraken beat the Kings 9-8 in overtime.
That might have been game of the year.
Right now, that is definitely game of the year for me. Just like the Minnesota Buffalo game in the NFL, to me, that standout is Seattle and the LA Kings going back and forth in that game. That was crazy. No matter less. So something real quick, because we did it with the East, I want to do it with the West. Your top three teams in the West for both divisions, then the potential wild cards as well.
Okay, so I'm gonna start in the Pacific, because and I don't want to be a hater, but I don't think that the Kraken are gonna be able to last this long. I don't think they're gonna be able to stay consistent. So as much as I hope they do, because I think that would be very fun to see the top two teams in this division be the two new expansion teams, I see them falling out of the top three, maybe make the playoffs, but out of the top three. I think that they go in order: Vegas, Edmonton, LA. And in Calgary maybe. I feel like Calgary and Edmonton could switch, but I think LA will be the third. In the Central, I think that it'll be Dallas, then Colorado, and then I'm gonna go Nashville.
Wow.
I think that Nashville
Bold take.
has a lot of potential. I know that we didn't talk about them, but I really like Philippe Forsberg, and I really like Matt Duchene and Roman Josi. And I think that if UC Saros can get his goals against average and save percentage better, I think that Nashville, I'd like their young team.
Nashville has been able to make the playoffs, like I'm pretty sure 3 of the last 4 years, and it's been as a wild card team. For me, starting in this, I'll start in the Pacific as well. To me, you see the top three right now. I think 2 of the 3 stay the same. I think Vegas finishes first. I do think Seattle maintains. I think it goes back and forth for a while, but I think Seattle finishes second. I'm gonna put, believe it or not, I am going to put Edmonton at 3 as of right now because I think they're able to get their stuff around, and I think the Kings become the wild card in the West for one of the wild card teams in the West. And I think if we have to add a central wild card, or excuse me, I forgot to the top 3. I believe it goes. I think it goes Colorado, Dallas, Winnipeg, with Minnesota or Nashville being the wild card if we had to pick one out of the Central Division.
I like that. I think that I kind of think Nashville's going to make it. I just have a hunch. But
Yeah.
I think that they've got a tough road ahead of them. I think they're going to have to beat out Minnesota and St. Louis. Those are the 2 they have to beat out. I also think it'll be weird not seeing Calgary there if our predictions are correct. Because it seems like they've been a very dominant team in the playoffs recently.
Yeah, you talk about playoffs. It's Calgary's going to, of course, come up and mention in conversation because of the recent success. But anywho's or what's there, let's talk now about our surprise players and disappointing players because this is something we had wanted to talk about for a little bit. And I think it just makes sense to talk about them since we talked about the teams. So, Joey, I'm going to let you decide. Do you want to talk about disappointing or surprise?
I think we should talk about surprise first.
Surprise first? Alrighty, so surprise players. You can go list them now and give me your explanation why, and then I'll tell you if you're right or wrong.
My first player, who has not been the best player in the league by any means, but is one of my most favorite players to watch in the league. Nobody believed in him except for me going into the year. And has really risen is Martin Necas of the Carolina Hurricanes. Martin Necas played last season as a third-line center for the Hurricanes. Didn't really do much. His stats for last year, he had 14 goals, 26 assists. His plus-minus ended at 5. He had 4 power play points, 159 shots, and 55 hits, which isn't bad. He averaged, 2 goals a game. Not great, 2 shots a game. But this season, he already has 11 goals. That's 3 less than all of last year. 14 assists, 12 less than all of last year. He's already hit halfway. He already has 3 more power play points, only a third of the way through the season. He's averaging a full shot, almost a shot and a half more and more hits per season, or per game. So I just love Martin Necas. I love to see him being the third line center all the way up to the first line center now and on the power play. It's just very fun to see him rise. And as a Carolina Hurricanes fan, it's great to see these young stars start developing.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. It was funny because I saw the experts talk about Martin Necas and the potential he has, and then the season with his hot start. I will agree with you on that one. That's a good pick, and in my opinion, I agree with your pick. He was definitely a surprise, not like a absolutely drop your pants kind of shocking turn up, but he has been really good, and I've been happy to see that as well. And your second player.
So my second player is Rasmus Dahlin. And I thought about taking Tage Thompson here for the Sabres, but I decided to go with Dahlin because I feel like Tage Thompson gets all the credit for this Sabres team and what they've done so far. And I just think that Dahlin should get some of the credit because he, a lot of the time, sets up Tage Thompson. He helps start those plays. He's a very strong defenseman. And I just think that he doesn't get enough credit for what he's done for the Sabres team. Obviously, they're not looking like they're going to make the playoffs. They've got chances. Anybody can take that 4th spot, like we mentioned. But I just really like Rasmus Dahlin. He's kind of been trending upwards these past couple years, and I just feel like he's really taken his biggest step up this year. He has 8 goals and 18 assists, and in a +9 plus-minus. I want to compare that with last year. So he has 8 goals this year. He had 13 last year. He had 18 assists this year. I had 40 last year. But the big one, his plus-minus this year is 9. He ended last year with a plus-minus of -22. So I don't know. I like the decisive choices. I like the risks he's taking, and I like his shot a lot. 74 shots this year. I don't know. He's been a very fun player to watch. He's getting his power play points up more. He's a big guy on that defensive power play. I don't know. I really like Rasmus Dahlin, and I think that we should be talking about him just as much as Tage Thompson.
Very good point. And if an honorable mention is needed to be handed out, the two honorable mentions, since we don't have these players, Jason Robertson and Tage Thompson would be my two honorable mentions if we were doing those.
I agree.
So my players, speed this up a tad, is Jack Hughes and then Rope Hintz, and I'll tell you why. Jack Hughes last year kind of turned it around. He was the first overall pick in 2019, so the standard for him and the ceiling they have on him is incredibly high, which isn't surprising, and it makes sense. If you're the first overall in the world, might I mention, to go in the NHL draft, you're going to be like, you got to be a darn good hockey player. In New Jersey with that pick Jack Hughes. So for me, he's progressing very nicely. Last season, he had 56 total points, but he only played 49 games. This season, he's played already 24 of the games, all games, and he's at 28 points. He's progressing nicely. He's moving up. Last season, he didn't have any penalty miss. This season has two, so he's not going in the box. He's getting extra power play and PK points and chances. So I think that's worth mentioning, especially with a Devils team that's rising and is super, super young. And then I picked Rope Hintz over Jason Robertson because this is the Jason Robertson the past 2-3 years has been a top 3 player on this team, no question. Rope Hintz has not. Not saying he's been a bad player by any stretch, but definitely I wouldn't say top 3 on the Stars if you have to talk in recent history. But he's really turned the season around. He's 24 points in 22 games, 8 goals, 16 assists, and he's taken 45 shots. That's a lot of shots, and he's able to take it to the net, and he's able to take the shots. He's playing just over 17 minutes a game. I'm happy to see his production has gone up to help, again, another team that's kind of gone from the middle of the division to the top. I think that plays a big factor in it as well for surprising players. Those, again, have been our surprising players of the NHL, along with our honorable mentions. And then finally, the final topic we wanted to discuss, disappointing players. Go ahead and name yours, Joe.
So my first disappointing player I really was excited for him this year. There was a lot of hype behind him, and I mentioned it a little bit before when talking about the Atlantic Division, and that's Moritz Seider. Moritz Seider, of course, winning the Rookie of the Year last year, having only 7 goals but 43 assists. Really, really a big playmaker, sets guys up well. 187 shots, a physical guy, 151 hits, 21 points on the power play. Just a very fun guy to watch, and it's his second year. He's got to bounce back. He's got to do it again. He only has 2 goals and 9 assists through all his games so far. The goals, he's not a goal scorer, but the assists I'd like to see more of. He's a good contributor to the Red Wings team, but his shots have not been the same. He's not hitting as much. His shots have almost gone down a full shot per game. I think that he has potential. I think that his assists will go up. I think that he's going to continue being a good playmaker, getting the puck to Dylan Larkin, who's scoring a lot of goals right now, and maybe Lucas Raymond. I think that he's got potential, and he can be that guy and help them get that 4th spot in the Atlantic. But he has to step up soon because he has not had the production so far. He only got his first 2 goals a couple games ago. Before that, he had no goals all season. So I think that it will go up, but so far at this point of the season, I think that he's had a very slow start, which is not good for the Red Wings.
You go ahead.
My second player who's been disappointing is Jonathan Huberdeau. I love Jonathan Huberdeau. I was really high on him going into the year. I was very excited to watch him play on a new team. He got paid a lot of money. Very exciting to see him get to play with Tyler Toffoli and Elias Lindholm and Kadri. And he has just not been the guy that Jonathan Huberdeau usually is. He only has 4 goals, which is not a lot for him. Only 8 assists, 12 points in 19 games. He missed a couple, but consistently usually a lot better than that. He's not getting as many shots. He only has 37, which is like 10th on the team. For a first-line center that he has been in the majority of his career, it's tough to see him not up to those standards. He had 30 goals and 85 assists for 115 points last year. And a third of the way through the season, he only has 12 points. So this Flames team is really going to have to fight to get into this into the playoffs with this very close Pacific Division, because they have to get it over the Kraken, the Kings, or the Oilers. They have to get it over one of those teams. Those are the teams to beat. So I think that they're really going to need him to step up as a leader, a veteran guy who sees the ice a lot, and I think that they need him to step up to make a run at the playoffs.
I agree with you. You got the facts, you got the support, and you got me. So A+ in your report there. For my disappointing player so far, Danton Heinen is the first guy I thought of. He only has 9 points in 22 games so far this year. You haven't really been hearing too much headlines from him. Over in the offseason, to me, he was a must re-sign, get back for this team because he produced a good chunk of surprising plays and points for us. But this year, I haven't seen much from that. He only has 3 goals, 6 assists, 9 points, like I mentioned, 33 shots on goal. Not too many compared to the rest of the team. Has one of those goals he did score was a power play goal. He's only averaging 13 minutes on time on the ice. So I think I just need to see an upward projection in all the other stat categories for me, especially with the Penguins as they've been getting back into a groove since that 7-game losing streak. And then also for me, another disappointing player, which I'm trying to not be too harsh on because he is an older guy in this league, is Marc-Andre Fleury. The season has not been his year. The season that we saw last year with the Wild in Chicago was actually surprising and really good and a lot of potential. This year, Fleury has played 14 games. He's 7-5-1, allows about 3 goals a game. Save percentage is just about a 90%. I mean, those stats are okay for right now, but by Fleury's standards, he's stepped up a little bit, but it has been rough. And don't get me wrong, it's been rough all around the board, goaltending-wise for Minnesota. But they did just start to turn their season around a little bit, so credit to that as well. But for me, by Fleury standards and Danton Heinen standards, these two players need to start picking up their act.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. I think that Danton Heinen, having Brian Rust miss some time last year and Jason Zucker miss some time last year really helped him boost him up onto those lines, onto some of the higher lines, getting to play with some of those other guys. But I still think that the production, even though he's not on those top lines, shouldn't go down as significant as it has. So I really hope that production goes up, but I agree with everything you said.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is actually going to do it here for the podcast today. I understand this was a tad lengthy one, but there's a lot of information to cover and stuff to talk about. Before we do exit, however, there is a congratulations in order. I understand we talked about it before the podcast a little bit before. As we all know, I'm in college already. I'm a year ahead of Joey, so I've been kind of getting into this college grind of working. Joey's been kicking butt in his senior year back at home. Very proud of everything he's been doing, all the stuff he's involved with. He's keeping up with it. He's still a great student as well and a great guy. Joey, their congratulations are in order. Joey, you were accepted to Slippery Rock University in your major sports management, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Congratulations, Joe. Much deserved. Everybody, round of applause in the comments, please, and thank you. Again, great student, excellent friend. Joey has a much of love and respect in my eyes. I hope everyone else sees him the same way. This is a very exciting time. So again, congratulations to Joey. Welcome to the College Club, my guy. But don't wish away that senior year just yet. And A+ to you, man, for all the involvement and sticking with the podcast. I appreciate it more than you'll ever understand what you've been able to do for me in this podcast as well. So just a congratulations, my guy.
Oh, thank you so much, Ethan. I really appreciate it. You've been quite a role model to me in this whole going to college area and doing the podcast. And don't you guys worry. We'll be at different colleges, but the podcast is not going to slow down. We're going to keep putting out great episodes. We're going to keep recording, and things are just going to go up from here. So can't wait to keep going on this journey with you.
Preach, brother. I love it.
It's been an honor.
100% right. It has been, and I've been very happy, and I appreciate that we're getting back on that grind with the podcast. And speaking of which, time to plug. So if you're not into it, well, too bad, so sad. We're on Spotify and YouTube. Make sure to subscribe on subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify. Make sure to leave a comment what you want to hear, what you'd like, what you disagree. Tell us what you're thinking. We love to hear it as well. Hear other opinions. For me, it's been an honor. Make sure to stay up to date with all of my athletic and sports opinions. My Twitter is at SpazarskiEthan. I keep a lot of my. I've been getting into that tweeting grind a lot recently. Elon's gotten in my head, so make sure to follow me there. So nonetheless, all content will be here on our YouTube page and our Spotify. We're working on mixing with other platforms. For right now, that's it. Joey, you have any final words before we take off?
I just can't wait for the next one.
That is the best thing I've heard all day. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Spittin Fax podcast. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.